Donald Trump wants to assure you that he is not having a series of mini strokes, which is totally a normal thing that people just bring up. I want to assure you that I didn't have a seizure earlier today. People just say that stuff, right? Okay, so what are we talking about? Well, way back on Saturday, November 16th of 2019, President Donald Trump made an unexpected visit to Walter Reed Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Now, this was written about recently by New York Times reporter Gabriel Debenedetti, who notes that in this Schmidt book, which is one of the sort of analyses of behind the scenes stuff of Trump that we get all the time, reports that the White House wanted Mike Pence on standby to take over the powers of the president temporarily if Trump had to undergo a procedure that would have required him to be anesthetized. The vice president never had to take this step. Now, that's where the book and the reporting ends. And for some reason, back on September 1st, Trump tweeted, "It never ends." Now they are trying to say that your favorite president, me, went to Walter Reed Medical Center having suffered a series of mini strokes. Never happened to this candidate. Fake news. Perhaps they were referring to another candidate from another party. First of all, when you say they're referring, who's referring? Because nobody is talking about a series of mini strokes. Now, there was a guy from CNN that tweeted, did he have a stroke or something? That's it. The book wasn't specific as to any medical problems. The reporting by the New York Times about it wasn't specific. Only that tweet even used the word stroke. Nobody said anything about a series of mini strokes. And yet Donald Trump wants to ensure that you know that it's not a tumor. I don't know why, but I think we can imagine, JR. Is this as simple as it seems?
Well, it's Donald Trump, so it's even simpler than it seems. So, as I've said before, anytime he actually denies something, you can take it to the bank that it's actually the opposite is true. So if he says, "There's no way I suffered a series of mini strokes," he suffered a series of mini strokes. And number two, the whole process of having to notify Mike Pence that he needs to be prepared to potentially take over if this happens, that's a normal thing, by the way. So Dick Cheney was given that same warning because at the time W went under for a colonoscopy or something like that. So presidents, believe it or not, are human beings. Donald Trump doesn't want you to admit that because he's like Kim Jong-un. So they're humans and sometimes they need medical attention. Sometimes they have health problems, normal ones, like W needing a colonoscopy, and then your vice president being notified for normal circumstances. If someone actually has to go through a medical procedure, they might pass away, especially when they're old like this guy. So be prepared. It would be, if you just admit it, it's normal. Now, if you start lying about it, it makes people start saying, well, why would you lie about it? What was it then? That's the question that comes from your horrible denials because you don't even know how to lie. But also the reason he doesn't know how to lie is because he never had to actually convince anyone he was lying. He just says stuff and people buy it.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to even come up with analogies for how crazy it is. But I think this analogy is robust. Let me walk you through it. Okay, so someone tells my wife they saw me out with a girl. And then one of our mutual friends says, "Oh, was he there with a redhead?" And then I call my wife and say, "I didn't have a threesome with a couple of redheads." That's
fake news.
No, that's weird. You're fake news. I didn't have a series of threesomes. That's just so weird. And look,
so you can call all three of these women. Call all three of them, and I guarantee you they'll back up my story.
Exactly. Well, what if you were to call those women and ask them, and they responded as Mike Pence did when he was asked about the trip to the hospital?
The candidate from another party. This refers to Michael Schmidt's book where he says the president went to Walter Reed, which in fact happened in November of last year. He says in the book that you were put on alert to take control, to take office essentially, if he went under for anesthesia. Is that true?
President Donald Trump is in excellent health. And Brett, I'm always informed of the president's movements. And whether it was on that day or any other day, I'm informed. But there was nothing out of the ordinary about that moment or that day. And I just refer any other questions to the White House physician.
But as far as being on standby?
I don't recall being told to be on standby. I was informed that the president had a doctor's appointment, and I
don't want to.
But I must tell you,
but I just want to.
Yeah, I got to tell you, part of this job is you're always on standby. As your vice president of the United States. But the American people can be confident that this president is in remarkable good health, and every single day I see that energy in high relief.
Okay, so there are denials, and then there's whatever that was, which was definitely not a clear denial.
Yeah, Mike Pence's political approach to anything is to talk long enough to make people eventually go, okay, I'm tired of listening to this. I don't know what he said, but I don't care anymore.
Seriously,
that's his political strategy.
He's like, there was nothing out of the ordinary, which he's right. You go on standby if they're going to be put under. That apparently is the actual procedure. So yeah, that's not out of the ordinary. And he said, I don't recall being on standby. He like drew it out in a weird way. So look, my takeaway is, yeah, it happened. I get that his doctor, the White House physician, I'm not even sure if he was the one who did it, said that he didn't have any of these things. But I'm sorry, when you've lied to us 20,000 times, I'm not going to simply accept what you say. But my assumption is that it has to be a series of mini strokes because Donald Trump just injected that for no reason. It's gotta be.
And the sad part about this is anytime a Trump official or someone under him has to defend him, they have to start by talking about how he is this immortal, superhuman human being. So, and that smug look that Pence decided to give us, let's keep it real, Brett. The president is in the best shape ever in the world, and I'm on top of that every day. So if you're on top of every time his health and how in shape he is and where he goes and everything he does, how are you not sure if they told you to be on standby? I thought you were just so definite. You know everything, every move this president makes. I watch it and I'm in awe. I wish it was me. So you know everything about him, but you don't know if you were on standby. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Which one is it? In 2 sentences to contradict yourself. Because by the way, that's what happens when you lie for the president. You either contradict yourself in 5 seconds or he contradicts you in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I want to make one final point. I am covering this because it's real weird. That's why I'm covering it. However, I want to be very clear, and feel free to disagree with me. It doesn't matter. Like if he had a series of mini strokes and was hospitalized to deal with it, he could just say that. And even if he doesn't, it doesn't matter. Like I understand there's this weird thing where people love to like fantasize about people that they don't like having medical problems. It was this thing back in the 2016 election where every time that Hillary Clinton like coughed or something, there were conspiracy theories about her having like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or something like that. Like, no, it doesn't actually matter if he had a health problem outside of for his actual health. It doesn't mean that he suddenly will not be president anymore or that they're gonna 25th Amendment him or anything like that. It's not gonna shift any votes. It doesn't matter. I care about the truth, so I'm gonna try to get to it based on the evidence we have, but it doesn't matter. We don't win if he has a stroke. So just to be clear about that, and I understand that I'm being like Buzz Killington here, and the story is fun because it's insane, but it doesn't actually matter. You don't win just because you spin conspiracy theories about people having pneumonia and stuff like that. It doesn't have anything to do with the power they exert in office, which will continue regardless of their health problems, just to be clear.
John, you're living in a reality-based world. In Donald Trump's world, it's weakness to be sick. And if you admit to being sick, you're weak. And if you're weak, he can't continue to push the narrative that everyone else is weak and that everyone else is low energy and that everyone else is about to die, that everyone else is in mental decline. Because now, if it doesn't matter anymore, then he can't use that as a political weapon. That's one of his main political weapons. It's also why he can't talk about the violence of his supporters, because that's his political weapon, to say the other side. So everything he claims about one side to pursue his political aspirations, he can't admit to an iota of that happening for him and his side because it eliminates it. You know, they have BS argument. You can't throw any kind of truth to it.
It's this weird thing where, he can't admit it. It's this weird thing where they can't admit to things that have nothing to do with you actually being strong or not, while all the time shouting in your face all the ways that they are weak and ignorant. Like you shouldn't wear a mask because it makes you look weak. I'm worried about cans of soup. Like I believe conspiracy. Like that's weakness. That's actual weakness. Having strokes when you're an elderly man is not weakness. So like American masculinity is designed to switch those two things, to make weakness strength and strength weakness. Yeah, and unfortunately, it's people like that that have power.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.